Chapter 9. 2 Fingers Gone. When it grew dark enough, we crawled out of the weeds and began to head north again. Now that Harrison could see the stars in the night sky, and he had his senses back, all night we hurried through the woods and cornfields and along wide open roads that made my heart thump in my chest when we crossed them. The moon was 3/4 full and stayed up most of the night, giving us a good bit of light to run by. Come morning, we crawled into the middle of someone's cornfield to sleep and hide ourselves. Master Hackler's cornfields ran in straight, even rows, but this cornfield rolled back and forth with rows going wide and then narrow, then real wide again. Looks like somebody's plow horses was drinking whiskey, Harrison chuckled as he peered down each row. Never seen a cornfield so crooked. The ripe ears of corn still hung onto their stalks, too. Harrison grinned and pulled off a few sweet young ears. You and me's gonna eat forever and a day in here, yes we is. Then he pulled a small stone jug of water and 2 apples from his tow sack. Breakfast, he said. What else you got in there? I asked, curious, because the sack still looked as full as it was when we started. Harrison squinted at me. Why you want to know so bad? 'Cause I does. You been peeking inside this sack when I wasn't looking? He asked, smacking the side of his tow sack with his palm. No, sir. All right, you get one look at what's inside, but you better keep your mouth shut about it. Harrison pointed his finger at me. Anyone asks, you don't give them no bones, you hear? Yes, sir, I answered. And stop saying sir this and sir that, or I'm going to tie you inside this sack and carry you clear to freedom. You're going to get us caught, sure enough. Lordy, lordy. Mumbling to himself, Harrison opened the tow sack and began to pull out what was inside. My eyes nearly went rolling out of my head when I saw what he had done. The first things Harrison brought out of the tow sack were Master Hackler's riding boots, with his big footprints still pressed inside the fancy leather. All the breath inside me was snuffed right out when I saw that. Those boots looked as black and mean as the night. I went and took Master Hackler's riding boots for my own self, 'cause, well, it ain't something I can explain in words. I just did, Harrison said, setting the fancy black boots down in the field of dirt. He reached in the tow sack again, and then I took Master Hackler's best beaver skin hat. For you, he said. And he held the hat toward me. Here. I felt the blood drain right down to my feet, but Harrison gave a little half smile and smoothed the top of the hat with his hand. Well, he said, pausing, it's a mighty fine hat anyways. He set the hat down next to me and reached back into the bundle. And then I took an old bridle in case we find ourselves a horse someday, and Cassius's silver pocket watch, 'cause, well, he was careless where he left it, and maybe we can sell it for some money. By the time he was finished, he had pulled out an old green silk bonnet from Miss Catherine, a pair of riding gloves that belonged to Cassius, Seth's worn hunting hat, and my 2 blankets, Lily's skillet and a knife, and a barn lantern, and a sulphur stick, and a roll of gray wool yarn. I felt that snake tighten around my throat as I stared at all the pile of things Harrison had stolen from our master. If we were caught with them, we would be in the worst trouble than I could even imagine. No one would believe me and Harrison owning a silver pocket watch or a fancy pair of boots. They'd know we were thieves and runaways for sure. You feeling poorly, Samuel? Harrison asked curiously. You giving me the strangest look, boy. Why'd you go and take all them things? I whispered, looking quickly over my shoulder, as if Master Hackler was creeping through the field toward us right there at that moment. They ain't ours, Harrison snorted loudly. Lord almighty, nothing belongs to us, Samuel. Nothing in this whole world. Gotta have something good before I roll over and die, don't I? Tugging one of Cassie's white riding gloves over his hands, Harrison waved his finger at me. Looky here, Samuel. I got all 10 of my fingers, but see what's happened? Lordy, my hand's gone and turned white, pale as white folks' hands. What's poor old Harrison gonna do now?
Even though I knew it was wrong, the sight of Harrison's old finger stuck in Cassius's fancy white glove gave me a grin. Then started laughing. And while I was laughing, Harrison put on Seth's hunting hat right on my head and pulled it clear down over my eyes. "Why, ain't it Seth, young Mass Seth?" he chuckled. "Dimwit as his older brother. Can't even find his way out of a hat." So I took Miss Catherine's bonnet and slipped it on Harrison's head and tied the green bow right under his stubbly chin. "You the most outrageous pretty lady I ever seen." Harrison sucked in his cheeks and pouted his lips together. "You supposed to call me Miss Catherine," he mimicked. Me and Harrison fell face down in the dirt, laughing. Laughed until our sides ached. As if Lily could have seen us, she would have shaken her head and hollered at us for acting like two black fools, carrying on in the cornfield, making fun of Master and Miss Catherine. But we didn't care, after all. We stayed in that field the whole day. When we weren't sleeping, we were lying on our back, cutting up and doing nothing. Above the green corn, the skies were as clear and blue as I'd ever seen them, and the air was full of the warm smell of corn stalks baking in the sun. I lay back in the dirt and breathed it all in, feeling as if the world had forgotten all about me and Harrison. It did feel awful strange to be gone that long from Master Hackler and Miss Catherine, though, especially when I knew I was supposed to be carrying in the slop jars from the outhouses, raking up the barn lot, collecting the eggs, feeding the hogs, filling the water buckets, or plucking the chickens Lily would need for supper. By my account, we had been away almost 3 whole days. Who was taking care of all my work? I even started to wonder whether me and Harrison had somehow passed on to the promised land, the way folks do when they die. Maybe that's why nobody's found us. "You think we died and gone to the promised land?" I asked Harrison while we were chewing on ears of corn. It was near evening, and we were waiting for the dark to run again. "Is that why no one's come looking for us?" Harrison gave a low chuckle and looked over at me. "When I pass on to the promised land, Samuel, you think I'm going to bring these old cripply body with me?" I squinted at his wrinkled up skin and his bushy crown of gray hair circling his head. "No, suppose not," I grinned. "But I got a feeling that tonight you and me's going to get ourselves somewhere closer to the promised land. With this here ear of corn," Harrison solemnly pointed into the distance, "see, when you find the River Jordan at the top of the edge of Kentucky, you is halfway to Canada, they say." "Who says?" "Folks I heard talking one time or another. I got 2 ears, you know," Harrison said, rolling his eyes, "and we're going to find that river tonight. I just got a feeling." And I remembered Lily telling me about the River Jordan. Almost every river in the Bible is named the Jordan. Seemed like Jordan or the Red Sea. On Sundays, Lily would always read aloud from her little Bible, "Same as I did 'em for my own flesh and blood," she'd say. Only truth was, Lily couldn't read a word, same as all of us. She would just turn the pages and tell the stories she had saved up in her head. "But I knows what's written down there," she would always say, tapping her finger on the page. "Don't need to see it or read it. The River Jordan's a real river." Harrison cut his eyes at me. "You saying that river I'm talking about ain't real?" I just put my head down and then chewed on the ear of corn. Let old Harrison think about what he wanted. With his fingers, Harrison drew a crooked line in the cornfield dirt. "Say this is the Ohio River right here," Harrison said, tapping the dirt with his finger. "Black folks, see, they call it the River Jordan. And white folks, see, they call it the Ohio River." Harrison looked up. "If you ask me, black folks should name everything in this world. Don't know why white folks use the names they do. Look at poor Noah," Harrison continued. "He goes and he spends them 40 nights and 40 days on the water. And have you ever heard white folks naming one little river after him?" I shook my head. "There now. That don't make no sense, if you ask me." As Harrison kept talking, I thought about the River Jordan winding through the green cornfields, carrying Noah and his family on a great big ark. Only in my picture it was me and Harrison and Lily on that big ark. Chapter 10, River of Death. That night, just after the sunset, me and Harrison started looking for the River Jordan. We pushed our way through the crooked rows of corn. When we got to the edge of the field, we sat down in the weeds, waiting for more darkness to come. Above our heads, the sky was the color of huckleberries, blue, almost black. "What's the River Jordan going to look like?" I asked Harrison.
He was sitting in the cornfield dirt next to me, with his arms resting across his knees, eyes closed. "Don't know," he said slowly. "See it when we get there, I reckon." "How you gonna find it if you never seen it before?" Harrison waved his arms at the field around us. "You and me, we just look for a big, wide river with a mess of lights on the other side. That's how we know." "Say, there's lots of river like that," I said, picking at the corn kernel stuck in my teeth. "How you gonna know it's the right one?" Harrison stood up and swung his toe sack over his shoulder, not saying a word. "Say we find the Mississippi instead," I kept on. "If we ain't seen it before, how we gonna know it's the right one?" "Stop picking your teeth," Harrison hissed, pointing his finger at me. "And stop being smart with me. I don't want to hear no more talking. Samuel, I does the bossin' and you does the following around here." He stumped past me, crushing stalks of corn and weeds under his feet. "You just hush up," he said, turning to look back at me. "Hush up and don't talk to me no more about that Mississippi River. You hear me?" I didn't dare to breathe another word. I just followed Harrison as quiet as I could, trying not to get up his dander. We walked out of the cornfield and into the small woods. Truth is, we found a river almost right away. So Harrison must have known what he was looking for after all. There was a line of trees just past the cornfield where we was hidden, and beyond the trees, the land started to roll downward. As me and Harrison slowly picked up our way down the steep hill, I could hear the soft sound of water flowing somewhere in the darkness. But the hill that we were walking down ended in nothing more than a creek. There was no lights showing on the other side. It was just brush and thick trees, rocks and fallen branches poked up here and there, and in the shallow water. Was this the River Jordan that we were looking for? "You just ease yourself down in that water, Samuel," Harrison pointed at the edge of the riverbank. "Then you help me down there so I can get a good look." But as my feet slid down on the small riverbank, I got a lungful of something awful bad coming up from that water. Smelled like rotten fish or a dead animal to me. Standing beside the river, I pressed my arm across my whole face, breathing through my shirt cloth. Harrison's feet landed with a soft sound next to me. "You smell that?" I said, shifting from one foot to the other. "We ain't gonna stay here, right?" Harrison didn't answer, just steadied himself on my shoulder. "Don't that water smell awful bad? Don't it smell like dead things around here?" "You think something dead's in here?" I whispered loudly, trying to see up and down the river. "Hush!" Harrison gave me a smack on my arm. "I can't even hear my own self think." I shut my mouth, then I tried not to think about what might be dead in this river. A shot deer, an old horse, a dead person, a whole mess of dead people. My throat felt tight all of a sudden, like I was going to be sick. "Let's move somewhere else, Harrison," I said, tugging on his arm. "Don't like it here at all." "I'm thinking about what to do. Stop pestering me." Harrison reached down to pick up one of the river stones. "You figure this is the wrong river?" he said, turning the river stone over and over in his palm as if it might tell him where we were supposed to be. "Can't we just find another river?" I asked. I didn't care if it was the wrong river or the right river. Only thing I knew for sure is that I didn't want to set one foot in this dark water, even if it was the River Jordan, even if Moses himself was waiting on the other side. "Why?" "'Cause it don't look like a River Jordan to me. You said there'd be lights on the other side, and I don't see no lights." "All right," Harrison said, as if he had made up his mind. "Then I guess we just cross over this little river and keep on going. Maybe we got the wrong river. Maybe another one will be coming along. Maybe it'll look like they said." I stared down at the black water and folded my arms stubborn as a stump. "I ain't going in that water, no how. Not with that smell. Not with something dead floating in it." "Don't be a child," Harrison said sharply. "Let me grab a hold of your shoulder." Digging in his old fingers into my skin, he said, "You're going to help me get across. That's all there is to it. We're going to cross this river and keep going north." He began to push me into the dark pools of flowing water as if I was nothing more than his walking stick. "Go on now," he said. "Go on. Start walking. Walk!" With Harrison behind me, I couldn't do a thing. My feet slid on slabs of rock as he pushed me right into the river. "Stop going so slow," he hissed, squeezing my shoulder. Staring into the water as black as midnight, I tried to slide my feet across the bottom, 1 foot at a time, because I wasn't about to step on anything dead. But each time I stepped down, the slick, muddy rocks made my heart fall right to my feet. In the middle of the river, the water swirled past my knees, taking my breath away. "Lordy, Lordy, Lordy," Harrison whispered, and I felt his finger tighten on my shoulder. "Keep moving, Samuel," he said, pushing me. It seemed like it took a half the night to pick my way across the darkness and the rocks and Harrison. I never did see what was dead, although it smelled the worst where the river was deepest. So the dark river must have been hiding something terrible beneath it. When we finally reached the other side, I left Harrison to pull his own self up the steep river bank. Figured if he could push me across the river, he could sure do that himself. I sat down on the log at the top of the river bank and waited. When Harrison finally got to where I was sitting, all he said was, "We don't die but once," in a hard voice, and then he kept walking right past me, not even looking back. Maybe he wanted to just stay there, leave him. Let him stumble around in the dark all by his own self. "We don't die but once." What's that supposed to mean? And where was he going off to? There was no River Jordan. That's what my mind said. We were just wandering and wandering in the dark tangle of woods, looking for a river we was never going to find. And truth is, how could you find something you'd never seen? I remember when Miss Catherine had lost a pin that belonged to her dead mother. She made us all crawl all over the floors in the house looking for it. Even Lily, she ordered, onto her hands and knees. And while we crawled, Miss Catherine stood over us and poked us hard with her toe of her shoe. "I knows you go through my fancy things when I'm out," she said, her mean voice rising higher and higher. "You know what my mother's pin looks like. Don't tell me you've never seen it." But we didn't have the smallest idea what we were even looking for. Gold, silver, pearl. We never found any pin at all. So Miss Catherine took something from each of us. Lily's good Sunday bonnet, a pair of winter gloves from Harrison, and a set of clay marbles from me, saying if we stole from her, then she would steal from us. But you can't find something you've never seen before. That's what Lily kept trying to tell her. And I wanted to say the same thing to Harrison, but he wouldn't listen any sense. Wouldn't stop looking for that old River Jordan. He shuffled up the hillside, away from the river, not speaking a word to me, just kept driving his walking stick hard into the ground as if he were trying to plant beans in a field. We crossed over the narrow mud path, through the small field of tobacco, past a barn that looked tumbled down and empty, around a stone wall, and into another thicket of woods, still going uphill. It seemed like the uphill went on forever, and then it stopped. "The River Jordan," Harrison whispered. "There it is, Samuel. Just like they says." Below us, the land fell away to a blanket of deeper shadows, with a pinprick of lights scattered here and there. Looked like nothing but a handful of little fireflies thrown into the darkness. Setting down the toe sack, Harrison raised his hands into the air like he was praying to the night sky. "Hallelujah," he said in a trembling way that sounded both scared and pleased at the same time. "Oh, Harrison, finally made it to the River Jordan." "I don't see no river," I said, squinting into the darkness. "Listen," Harrison whispered. I slapped at a mosquito and listened to the still, quiet air. A dog barked somewhere in the distance, and a night bird called out nearby, but I couldn't hear water flowing, not even a drop of water. "I don't hear nothing," I tried to say. "A big river ain't like Lily's kitchen pump," Harrison hissed. "You ain't gonna hear water pouring out of the ground. Use your ears and listen now." It was the same soft sound as the wind brushing across the field, he said, or thunder from a far-off cloud rumbling through the sky. "Listen for a small sound moving across something real big. Hush now, just listen," he told me. But I still didn't hear any river. Harrison pointed toward the deep darkness just below us. "See how that land goes down, Samuel? Goes down to the bottomlands of the River Jordan. And then the bottomlands is flat as my hand, flat as a tabletop. They call them the cornfield bottoms, 'cause they's full of corn growing from the blackest, thickest earth you ever came across." Harrison was quiet for a long time. just staring toward the river that we couldn't see. I thought maybe he had forgotten where he was. "We gonna keep moving?" I said real low. Harrison shook his head. "You don't know nothing about what's waiting for us on the bottomland, Samuel." He pointed his walking stick in the darkness. "Them cornfields full of patrollers. White folks down there, they hunt flesh and blood people. They got guns and dogs and whatever else they can find to catch black folks. Hunting you and me ain't no different than trapping an animal." A chill went through me. I remembered something young Mass Seth had told me once. He was collecting some eggs from the hen house, and he went and peeked around the door. "My brother knows a fellow who hunts runaway Negroes in the borders of Kentucky," he said. "They call him a patroller. He's caught 22 Negroes in 1 week. You ever heard of patrollers before?" "No, sir." "Now you go away from me," I warned. But he waved his wooden pop gun at me like he was some big thing. "They pay $100 for a runaway there. If I hunted Negroes, I bet I'd be rich. Rich as a king. Maybe you run off someday," he said, pointing the gun at me, "and I'll hunt for you." "I ain't running away," I told him. "Now stop telling me stories." But he popped that hard cherry pit at my back anyway. "Bang, you're dead." He laughed and ran off. Later, I asked Lily about a patroller, and she turned around real fast and pointed her finger at me. "You just stay away from Seth and do the work you got to do. Stop listening to all his foolishness. There's lies growing out of every hair on his head." And maybe what Seth said was true. Digging through the tow sack, Harrison pulled out Lily's sharp knife, the one I had taken from the kitchen. "That's why I brung this," he said. My voice got stuck in my throat. "Why?" Harrison waved the knife at me. "'Cause if something happens, if they catch us down here, I ain't going back to Master Hackler's. I'll slit my own throat ear to ear before they take me back." Harrison's eyes had the look in them again. Same wide-eyed look from the woods. "I've been caught once, and they ain't never catching me again. Old Harrison, he'll fight till he's dead and gone."